Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News. It is Memorial Day. America is trying to grill hot dogs, honor the fallen, and drive somewhere without selling a kidney for unleaded. But instead of a calm holiday, we got war math, oil panic, political knife fights, and a global economy wobbling like a folding chair at a family reunion. Segment 1. The Strait, the Strike, and the world's most expensive traffic jam. The big story today is still the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran, which started in late February and has now become the kind of mess where everybody claims victory while the gas pump laughs like a cartoon villain. The US and Israel hit Iran hard with Operation Epic Fury, smashing command centers, air defenses, naval targets, and leadership sites with enough firepower to make a fireworks stand feel underdressed. But wars that get sold like a quick oil change can turn into the mechanic walking out with your transmission, a raccoon, and your wallet. The administration expected Iran to fold, but Iran answered by turning the Strait of Hormuz into the world's nastiest toll booth. That little stretch of water carries enough oil to make every economist on Earth start chewing pencils. So now the peace deal is basically about unclogging the global artery before the whole body passes out. The proposed agreement would reopen traffic through the strait, lift the US blockade, and push the nuclear argument into a later round, which is diplomacy for saying we will fight about the scary drawer after we stop the kitchen from flooding. Pakistan is mediating, Iran wants frozen money released, Israel wants the nuclear program physically dismantled, and Washington wants gas prices to stop stalking voters in broad daylight. Everybody is standing around this deal like cousins dividing grandma's estate, smiling for the room while privately checking where the forks are. Segment 2. Vacation inflation and the Great American Gas Pump Mugging. Back home, the war has crawled out of the foreign policy section and climbed directly into everybody's grocery cart, pickup truck, plane ticket, fertilizer bill, and Memorial Day cookout. Gas is around $4.50 a gallon nationally, diesel is way up, jet fuel is mad, and moving anything from anywhere to anywhere else now feels like hiring a helicopter to deliver one bag of mulch. When diesel jumps, groceries do not politely absorb the cost. Like a church lady taking one for the team, they pass it along like a hot casserole pan with no mitts. The eggs, the hamburger meat, the paper towels, the farmer's fertilizer, and the trucker's fuel card all start stacking costs like cinder blocks in the bed of an old Ford. The ugly part is that even if the strait reopens tomorrow, prices do not magically fall like a cartoon piano. Oil has to move, refineries have to catch up, damaged infrastructure has to be inspected, tankers have to stop treating the Persian Gulf like a haunted lake, and retailers have to decide whether they feel generous, which happens about as often as a possum files taxes. The Federal Reserve was supposed to think about cutting rates, but now inflation is back at the door wearing muddy boots and asking where the snacks are. Wall Street keeps bouncing on peace rumors like a squirrel that found espresso in the bird feeder, proving the stock market and the average American budget are not living in the same zip code. Segment 3. Trump's peace deal runs into the hawk coop. Politically, this whole thing has become a hog wrestling contest in dress shoes. President Donald Trump needs a deal because voters do not care how many targets got hit if their vacation budget now looks like it got attacked by drones. Polls show people are worried about gas, groceries, housing, and the general sense that the country is being run by folks who mistake a crisis for a branding opportunity. The White House wants to say the military mission worked, the economy will recover, and the deal is strong. But the average driver is staring at the pump thinking, "Buddy, my bank account did not receive that victory memo." The Republican hawks are furious because they believe the proposed ceasefire gives Iran too much for too little. Senator Roger Wicker is calling it a disaster. Senator Lindsey Graham is warning about Gulf oil. Senator Ted Cruz is angry about sanctions relief. And Mike Pompeo is hollering that this looks like the Obama-Iran deal wearing a fake mustache. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is trying to reassure everyone that the goal is still to deny Iran a nuclear weapon, which is the diplomatic version of saying yes, the barn is burning, but technically we still own a hose. The strange part is that when gas prices start acting like an angry lobbyist, even the toughest foreign policy has to pull over and check the engine. Segment 4. Iran's new boss and the nuclear problem nobody wants to touch. Inside Iran, the war got even stranger after the killing of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in the opening strikes. Instead of the regime collapsing like planners hoped, the hardliners tightened their grip and elevated Mojtaba Khamenei, his son, into the top job, which is an awkward look for a revolution that spent decades insisting it was not a monarchy. That is like burning down the old king's palace and then handing the keys to his kid, because he already knows where the good curtains are. The new leadership depends heavily on the IRGC, which means Iran is negotiating with one hand on the table and the other hand resting near the Strait of Hormuz like a loaded shotgun. President Masoud Pezeshkian is doing the softer public routine, saying Iran's nuclear program is peaceful and blaming Israel for regional instability, while the security apparatus keeps the hard edge sharp behind him. That is not diplomacy so much as a county fair act, where one guy offers lemonade and the other one is measuring your truck for repossession. Iran says it has made no real promise to surrender nuclear material, only to discuss it later if the maritime phase works. And Russia may be taking custody of enriched material sounds like putting a rattlesnake in a different barn and calling it agriculture reform. The grounded truth is ugly. Military power damaged Iran badly, but economic leverage kept Iran at the table with cards still in its hand. Segment 5. Every other crisis is standing in line holding a receipt. And because this is 2026, and apparently the world was built by raccoons with fireworks, the Iran war is not the only thing going sideways. There are worries about an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is exactly the kind of nightmare that gets harder to manage when the planet is busy staring at missiles, oil tankers, and interest rates. Pope Leo XIV is weighing in on artificial intelligence and global stability. And somehow the Pope sounds steadier than half the political class, which tells you the vibes are not just off. They have driven into a ditch and started a brush fire. At the same time, America is juggling local violence, wildfire danger, somebody reportedly shooting at a firefighting aircraft while claiming he was hunting crows, and a Texas execution controversy involving testimony shaped by police hypnosis. All these stories may seem separate, but they are symptoms of the same overloaded system. Foreign wars push fuel prices up. Fuel prices squeeze households. Squeezed households get angry. Politicians claw at each other. Institutions lose trust. And then every strange local crisis feels like proof the whole dashboard is blinking red. It is like driving an old farm truck with the check engine light on, the oil light on, the door ajar light on, and a goat in the passenger seat chewing the registration. Memorial Day arrives with flags, cookouts, and remembrance, but also with Americans doing mental math at the pump and wondering if the next peace announcement is real or just another rumor wearing a necktie. In conclusion, today's news is one giant reminder that wars do not stay neatly overseas when oil, shipping, inflation, politics, and fear all share the same driveway. The U.S. may get a ceasefire, Iran may get leverage, Israel may get half a promise, and Americans may get a receipt long enough to wallpaper a garage. So honor the people who deserve honoring, enjoy the cookout if you can, and keep one eye on the gas gauge. Because this economy is acting like it heard a noise in the woods and sprinted barefoot through a briar patch.